的选择，或者打西格玛也可以。西格玛、迪瓦，我觉得这两个英雄都可以拿。我偏向于拿西格玛。迪瓦也可以吧，看他们怎么选择吧。如果是拿双枪斧的话，我觉得西格玛是不错的。
Obviously, a compositional difference here of being a Cassidy versus the Sojourn, and Kai not having the mobility to get away from a.
期待期待。
Over what happened to Kai in the previous map by taking a look at some of the highlights that we've compiled from Eco Point and Antarctica between our two rosters here. Obviously, we're not going to be seeing as much of dive tanks from Smurf, but we are going to be seeing plenty more of the King himself. So impressive on the Ana, and I think that Izuyaki Twilight is one of the, unironically, one of the rosters of all time when it comes to double flex support. They are.
一会儿就是安娜柴亚塔。
They both got that dog in them, and when it comes to
安娜柴亚塔
on flex support, you could not
我
ask
想一
for
下，
better.
安娜柴亚塔的话，拿迪瓦可以。
Yeah, Twilight hit a lot of critical sleeps on the Dante, and you already saw in the replays.
就不带录效了，不提速了。
Slowing down the Gladiators, who feel like such a high tempo team off of Funny Astro, and I think that's why when they'll stick to that when it comes to control of playing that Lucio, and maybe even Boston mirroring that strategy. But Birdering had quite a showing, was gapping Kai. Although obviously there are factors to include, whether it was Smurf diving on the Winston, making a lot more space for Birdering when it came to labs.
打得好啊！
The other maps when you had Doomfist, still more space being created. Dante not able to just close the gap in terms of space to even get
DJ 共过来也是给对面上了一
so he was able to just unload. It was great to watch. Blizzard World though, you're favoring the Gladiators off of how comfortable they looked on this map yesterday against Wisp.
Hey, call me a fanboy here as well, but to return to the Birdering Sojourn, but the prejudices that you might have in terms of playstyle from pre-nerf Sojourn. Birdering knows Sojourn as she is now in a far more balanced state, and maybe that means that the grasp of the kit is going to be a little bit more al natural than someone who's had to change their Sojourn playstyle multiple times over the course of a year as we tried to nerf her down to a state where she was both fun and fair. And that might be a slight advantage, even though Birdering here on the attack, try and control those angles that the Trace is going to want to take. That's going to be down to Kevster, who thus far against Decay, I think has been doing very well in the Trace at all. Maybe there needs to be a touch more attention there from a Boston Uprising to try and help out the game those
Against Kai Cassidy, definitely going to be tough now that you have the Suzu from the Kiriko.
不是说 Carpy 在瓦罗兰特掌控了一电吗？
When going up against the Glads, but on the defense, you might have a lot to worry about. If Diva is going to be the confirmed role. I think we might have seen this from the Shock, or at least one other team on Blizzard World, where Diva is very close range, but man, she packs a punch and she bullies Winston out of his bubble with those micro missiles, and it's more of that
阵容的话跟我们想象中的差不多。双枪斧，他们家那个阵容现在就是要接着对面跳的。 要是后排接不住，但是有 Diva 在的话就可以。单铁要受苦了。哎呦，背部好强！机甲要掉了。我背部好凶啊！
Backline. They have done so already. Killing Twilight is big, and you got no heals at all for defense, or for this offense, I should say, and no mech either. So Glad's waited for Boston to act first, which is interesting.
Yeah, just kind of slowly tightening that noose around them and making sure that all of the off angles
2020年28周开始，也就是16-0波士顿
can actually all in. As a Kiriko by TPing in with Dante.
拿双枪斧打对面那个阵容其实还是要点勇气的，但是开料打太凶了，顶得太前了。你没技能，别人跳你后排，如果你回来保不了的话，后排还是活不了。
Even explore even more as long as Babel has a dive or a teleport target. That's to still pay attention to Kai though, and that's the flex support squirrel brain. If you just want to damage as much as you can.
不，即使温斯顿后排保不住的。哦，伊萨亚克反杀一个，哦，开了死，补掉一个，有了。他们激素怎么没给啊？这波 Lastro 背部好凶啊！
First from Babel as Boston are just barely getting that first hit, and they will confirm it as Glass just didn't get really much headway off of the Kitsune rush.
Great timing there with the nano.
这波 Lastro 没给激素，我是没想到的。Lastro 这波给激素，主动跳过去是完全可以把后排打烂的。啊，黑百合了，来点黑百合震撼。Virgin 说你这能忍？
So why not give him a nano boosted fan the hammer and just dispatch the gorilla for the next turn? Kai. This is where legends were born.
Or you fall asleep. Depends if, one shows up.
So sometimes you just want to attack FPS style where you'll hold an angle for several thousand minutes, and sometimes you get to shoot someone. It's for hunter style,
拿黑百合出来就是加你的长枪的，你的柴亚塔，你的那个卡西迪，你的安娜打的都不会舒服。限制能力还是可以做到的，换阵这上面也是没什么问题。Harvester 又是闪过去被迪瓦框了，然后撞了一下，或者打了一套被和尚直接补了。Harvester 要小心了，2次了，直接堵住，温斯顿死了。哦，有大。 但是还是亏啊！这波大招打不了人的，这是保命大。你可以把和打不了，打不了。开外的这2波被反杀有点那个了。拉索这个激素啊，已经比这个他的慢一轮了。哦，这场没打到头，比扎克只能说运气好。这波可以给激素卡廖斯，可以直接给激素卡廖斯。 切脆皮，切温斯顿。因为这波要在车边打架，激素卡西迪、激素迪瓦都可以。我的建议是激素迪瓦会稍微好一点，但这波不敢进去对面。哇，又被打中了 DK。这波要打车边，激素开廖斯其实是一个非常不错的选择。卡西迪也行。哇，这么猛啊！不是你这样子给激素去强打，有点说不过去了。我说实话，不把对面当人了。
Excellent focus fire there. Twilight's on top of the vending machine, but I'm afraid that it's keeping your snacks, mate. And you're gonna have to go back off to spawn.
其实完全可以激素迪瓦顶着星星的打，把星星顶走之后拉出来，然后让迪瓦去顶对面的这个黑百合，把这个谁放出。哦，来了，兄弟们！
Now this is a duel that I would pay to see. One of Europe's best.
Here. It's free to watch.
Head scratchers.
They're not even gonna see each other. Wah. We need to just screw this match. Let's go into a winner 1v1, okay? This is what the people are here to see. Because it's both teams just waiting for the other person, the other team
其实时
to
间
make
不
the
够了
chess move
现在需要黑百合有明星
first.
球
Kalios and friends on
来了
Boston, few more meters to go. Kai picks off Decay. 5v4 for
可以
the defense. So getting a DMAC onto Kalios would be ideal, even forcing out the self-destruct. You don't want to use that though. Kalios is going to get burned down by Kepster in a second. And I wonder if they're going to leave him out of mech. Yeah, they
还有
are.
这小地方估计还要被养一下，小养了一下。还有最后一波，哎呦 ，Virgin 拿下了。但这个时间点死了有点难受。哇塞，决斗士5个大将近，怎么输啊？主要是有，决斗士这波5个大招，除非开廖斯炸2个，我觉得要不然输不了。 还有一个视野怎么办？出不来。
You got sightlines here, huge advantage.
你看看，你非得在这晃什么？我真的是服了。
Transcendence for this final fight. Kitsune rush from Babel and the
真不信邪，
Gladiators
我操，真的是。结束。
To be taking or at least holding off this push to point B with ultimates to spare. I mean, just based off of map positioning, the Gladiators gave Kai such a big kind of gap for bird range, who just only had the small room to really operate from. Then Boston had a good punish on the Dante when he got too eager to just.
我给小伙伴们复盘的时候，我都说，对面只要有黑白和有半藏，在知道你这个地方有视野的情况下，你不要去挑衅他。哎，你根本不用说这种顶尖的这个黑白盒，要不然看不起对面嘛。这伊泽阿 K 跟 DJ 共两个人上来就心高气傲啊，有一点皮啊都。都有点皮啊。
exploit, and that means that you've got to do a lot of groundwork as Boston Uprising to dislodge Kevster, to make room for decay, to dislodge Babel, to make sure that you aren't going to get sniped in the side of the head by someone who can get out for free.
打得太不谨慎了，有一点那个了。
over to Kai as well. And honestly, we did see
DJ 跟我上来在前面就给了上张地图表现的，其实就给了对面机会。这最关键的一波，连胜都没开出来。
And I think Dante was able to reel back a bit. I think he's, you know, you
不应该，我觉得得稍微调整一下。
With funny Astro Lucio escorting you around to a more slower and measured style. When they have the Zen, they have the Diva. This is just to blow up Dante as many times as possible. And he felt that on a couple of misfights at the point. And he was able to dial that back and just rely on his DPS. Maybe not something Dante is used to doing, but he's on the attack. It's Kevster Widow this time, but just for maybe that initial back to the Tracer.
So Vizaya is real. I brought it up at the beginning of this match. I didn't think it would be real.
拿扎利亚，我觉得要被看要是吃大招啊，兄弟们！这是这一次比赛里面第一次扎利亚登场。
On the loose, who's actually something we're familiar with, thanks to Lastro's
就想来打对面迪瓦用的。 而且这一波伊扎克是没有拿和尚的，扎利亚其实是有用的。这么猛，这么猛啊，丹泰！ 90能量，那这跟枪可以呀、啊，丹泰这跟枪，丹泰这跟枪可以呀、啊。
It feels kind of personal that Dante just rushed down Twilight. I mean, if you're sick of getting slept on your engage as a tank, you can just play Zarya. The sleep doesn't do more than 5 damage. It will not break through that bubble. Dante just absorbs, just eats up, gobbles up all of this Ana utility as she moves on forward. Izayaki now being able to leverage some high ground over Zenyatta might make Dante a touch more vulnerable. But you've got to hold this second point here of Blizzard for 5 minutes, Lemon, and that's
有扎利亚就拿和尚，没得说啊。有一个原因是因为和尚这个一伤球挂了扎利亚身，扎利亚不交盾的话很脆。 他不像其他英雄啊，有矩阵有盾。扎利亚这种英雄的话，你给他挂一伤，他如果一不小心就容易被秒，很容易就把盾给掉出来。没盾的话他就打不了，这是拿这个和尚的一个原因。这也是以前我们在比赛里面处理对面带扎利亚又不好打的情况之下，可以选择拿个和尚出来。毕竟和尚的大招对于他的大招也是有一定 counter 作用在里面。但那80能量了。 卡里奥斯这边被打得还挺难受的，我就捅你，我就捅你，哎，我就捅你。激素强保，矩阵激素保得不错。哇！
are getting so much free push until Kalios is back to anchor. But the background presence from Boston is dangerous. 2 kills for Birdring after he survived the rabbit. He's not even done here.
The support there, super solid. Not only the nano, but the full defense measures as well, just smothering Bergeron, making sure.
我以为丹泰这波他要把大招留着跟那个谁Kai打一波配合，结果没有。
And making Kai divert his crosshair over towards Kalios, who he can't one shot. Because remember that Kai in this duel has a much greater effective range.
这波得激素扎利亚打，中后段给激素扎利亚打是不错的。卡里奥斯确实挺难受的，但是你看 Twilight 的能量来得非常快。你看一直在打，其实最舒服的还是那个谁。 丹泰这走位可以，和尚死了。鹰杖只盖了一个人，保住了 Cavister， 看着差点死了。但这样子把鹰杖调出来的话，对决斗士来说不是个好消息哦。这边是很希望看到这种情况发生的。Cavister 难受啊，就举着在前面框着。 真难受啊！你看看，又要来了，扎利亚来了，这个地方还不能让，又顶死一个，大招也被吃了。哎，这波看料是机甲要炸，哎。 好粗啊！我操！
but the bubble from Dante ate so much of that damage. Still 2 minutes and 10 left for the Glads, who feel dismantled. Even Izayaki is killing both supports. Like what is this?
下波有机会，下波西龙，兄弟们。这张地图崛起队有点难打。 下一波团战，崛起队空前绝后大危机，兄弟们，死一个，激素也没了。这波只要不被吸，我觉得决斗士就稳了。要隔墙吸了。哎，机甲炸了，给稳健。哦。 Bergeron 什么情况？什么情况？这伊扎亚 K 加这俩 C1 合上3把枪杀完了。
Decay is him. There's no other way to say it. If you guys haven't, by the way, check out Yiska's video. On Decay as a gatekeeper, fantastic look into Decay's career and how this might be his chance to truly claim the championship that everyone else on this team, with the exception of Kalios, has under their belts. Now it's Gladiators who are feeling the sting of time against the back of their neck.
这波 Cavister 炸个安娜就赢了，只要炸弹不被吸。开子真的太死了。
Kai thinking, oh, I could plant this Dragon Strike to at least force the supports of Twilight Izayaki down, but not getting the information he needed. Boston control and the nano.
极限激素啊！我操！
This team is next level. Gladiators only have 18 seconds. They had all the time in the world.
马上有鲍勃了。 95，鲍勃出来就要结束了，兄弟们。小房间里面塞过去。哇 ！Bergeron。 波士顿太强了，好看，好看，好看，好看，好看，好看。